Welcome to Simple Healthy Tips, your guide to better gut health, stronger immunity, and more energy through simple daily.
Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Have you ever actually stopped to think about the absolute universe of activity happening inside of you, literally right at this very second? Beneath our skin, there are trillions of unseen physiological reactions constantly firing off. They're keeping us alive, keeping us moving, and feeling. Today, we're going to unpack this incredible, highly tuned machine that is the human body.
So what is your body actually doing right now? Every single time you take a bite of food, touch a surface, or, even just feel a quick moment of stress, your internal systems spring into this massive coordinated response. It's absolutely fascinating. We're going to break down exactly how this all happens.
Here's our physiological roadmap for today. First, the engine room, mastering your gut microbiome. Second, the digestive clock. Third, the transit system, protecting our heart and arteries. And finally, the alarm system, the surprising science of paper cuts. All right, part one, mastering your gut microbiome, the engine room. Now, a lot of people think the gut is just the stomach, right? But it's actually the entire digestive path spanning all the way from your mouth to your brain. It's packed with this chaotic but absolutely essential mix of trillions of bacteria, fungi, and viruses. So the crucial thing here is understanding what these trillions of microbes actually eat. They survive on MAX. That stands for microbiota accessible carbohydrates. But basically, it's plant fiber. If you're eating the same 8 to 10 foods every single day, you're kind of starving your microbes. But when you feed them a good variety of MAX, your microbes ferment them into short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs. Think of these as tiny superheroes. They strengthen your gut barrier, calm down your immune system, and reduce internal inflammation. It's a real game changer. 30, that's the magic number. Research shows that to build incredible gut diversity, we should aim to eat 30 different plants a week. Now, I know that sounds wild, totally impossible, right? But it's really just 4 or 5 a day. We're talking fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, whole grains. Hitting that target easily provides the 30 to 40 grams of daily fiber your gut engine needs to operate at its absolute peak. You see, there is a massive difference between residents and tourists in your gut. A really common misconception is that the probiotics you eat just, move in permanently and set up shop. But in reality, probiotics from fermented foods like kimchi, kefir, and sauerkraut, they're just temporary tourists. They visit, they take up space, and they stop the bad bacteria from growing. That creates a safe, healthy environment for your native resident bacteria to actually thrive.
But our modern lifestyle is just full of hazards for these little microbes. Take ultra-processed foods. They contain emulsifiers that actually thin out your gut's protective mucus layer. Then you've got broad-spectrum antibiotics. While they're definitely necessary sometimes, they can decrease your gut diversity by 30% in just a single round. We also tend to over-sterilize our environments with sanitizers, which robs us of natural microbial exposure. And get this, it's absolutely incredible. When you're stressed out, your body releases a chemical called norepinephrine, and that literally acts like steroids for the bad bacteria in your gut. No way, right?
Okay, moving right along to part two, the digestive clock, processing your fuel. There are some vast extremes in how our bodies process different inputs. Think about water. It requires zero digestion time. It goes straight through, basically instantaneous. But as we move up the density scale, the body has to work remarkably harder. Potatoes take about 120 minutes to digest, while heavy meats, like pork, they trap your body in a massive 300-minute digestive marathon. That's a serious workout. Just think about your own dinner plate for a second. Watermelon, that speeds right on through in 20 minutes. Apples take 40. A salad with oil takes about 60 minutes. But then look at the heavier foods. Chicken takes up to 2 hours. Beef is 3 hours. And lamb? That is a staggering 4 hours of non-stop heavy lifting for your digestive tract. Honestly, knowing this clock explains exactly why you might feel so sluggish after a big, heavy meal. Your body is literally diverting all of its energy just to process that fuel. So once that food is finally broken down, the nutrients enter the bloodstream. And that brings us to part 3, protecting heart and arteries, the transit system. Let's look at 5 natural, totally actionable ways to clear out your internal pipes. First up is fiber. Specifically, psyllium husk actually traps cholesterol right in your digestive tract before it can even be absorbed. Next is garlic, which has been shown to help reverse early heart disease by clearing out that plaque buildup. Then we have flaxseed, which traps fat and bile. Fish oil comes in to reduce triglycerides and blood pressure. And finally, milk thistle. Now you might be wondering, why milk thistle? Well, the liver is actually the organ that fabricates cholesterol. So by protecting your liver, you're naturally protecting your heart. Makes sense, right?
Now here is a brilliant little physiological surprise for you. Natural, unprocessed, bitter cocoa powder physically opens up your transit system. It's true. Within just 2 hours of consuming real dark chocolate, tests using angiography have shown significant improvements in coronary artery function. You can literally see the tiny veins inside the eyes physically dilate and open up to increase blood flow. How cool is that?
But hey, quality definitely matters here. In a study of patients with peripheral artery disease, those are folks whose arteries in their limbs are stiffened and cramped up, eating dark chocolate with a respectable 85% or higher cocoa content actually allowed them to walk further and for longer. Meanwhile, the group that ate processed milk chocolate, they saw absolutely zero benefits. Nada. So when it comes to your arteries, for sure, bitter is definitely better. Conversely, let's look at how bad food actively restricts this transit system. There was this totally fascinating study published in the Scottish Medical Journal that tested brain arterial flow. They compared subjects eating standard oatmeal against subjects eating a local Scottish delicacy, a deep-fried Mars bar. The results? Yeah, heavily processed deep-fried foods instantly stiffen our arteries. They basically make them unable to quickly open up and compensate for blood flow when we need it the absolute most.
So let's zoom all the way out to our extremities to look at a universally relatable biology question about our nervous system. Part 4. The Science of Paper Cuts, the Alarm System.
Look, we have all been there. A tiny, seemingly insignificant slice from a piece of paper can make a fully grown adult just wince in total agony. Why is that? Why does a tiny paper cut hurt so much worse than other, visually nastier injuries?
Well, the answer lies in something called nociceptors. These are specialized pain receptors that act as your body's built-in alarm system. Because we use our hands to explore and interact with the world around us, our fingertips have way more of these chemical and pressure alarms per square inch than anywhere else on the whole body. They are basically screaming, "Pain alert," to keep you safe from harm. But the real villain here is the paper itself. Think about a kitchen knife. It gives you a clean, smooth cut. But if you look under a microscope, the edge of a piece of paper isn't smooth at all. It's extremely jagged, almost like a miniature saw. So when you get a paper cut, it's ripping this jagged path of destruction right through those densely packed nociceptors. And to make matters worse, it's simultaneously depositing these irritating chemical particles from the paper directly into that fresh wound. Ouch, right?
And here is the truly cruel irony of biology. When you get a deep cut, your body immediately clots the blood and forms a scab to protect the wound, right? But paper cuts usually aren't deep enough to bleed, so without a scab, those highly sensitive, torn-up nerve endings just sit there completely exposed to the open air. Plus, because it's right there on your finger, every single time you bend your hand, you pull the wound open again, just constantly delaying the healing process. Since your body won't trigger its natural scab defense for a paper cut, you kind of have to do it manually to protect those nociceptors. Here's the blueprint. Wash it gently with soap and water. Apply a mild antiseptic. Keep the skin moisturized with an antibiotic ointment so it can repair, and most importantly, cover it up with a bandage. That mimics a scab and blocks the open air from constantly hitting those raw alarms.
Which brings us to our final thought. Today we've seen just how perfectly calibrated our bodies really are. We're talking from the trillions of fiber-hungry microbes in your gut, to the hours your stomach spends breaking down a heavy meal, to the instant dilation of your arteries from raw cocoa, all the way down to those microscopic alarms in your fingertips. If your body can react so intensely to a jagged piece of paper or just a single drop of water, how will it respond to the choices you make next? Honestly, it's a question worth asking every time you sit down at the table. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.